Well, meet my lovely folk. I'm Ross and welcome to the Pagan Mama's first video about it. Most of you will have already heard about it, but I know that there's a big difference between having heard of it and knowing what it is and what it isn't. I'll try not to overload you with too many details since I tend to go into too much detail about things I find interesting. I know most people switch off after a short while, so I'll try to avoid it as much as I possibly can. First of all, what is turret? The turret, it was first known as Triumphi and later as Tarocchi, Tarak, amongst other names. Well, it's a pack of playing cards, most commonly numbering 78, used from the mid-15th century in various parts of Europe to play a group of card games, such as Italian tarocchini and French tarot. From the late 18th century until the present time, the turret has also found use by mystics and occultists and pagans in efforts at divination or as a map of mental and spiritual pathways. Now, divination can be seen as a systematic method with which to organize what appear to be disjointed random facets of existence, such that they provide insight into a problem at hand. If a distinction is to be made between divination and fortune-telling, divination has a more formal or ritualistic element and often contains a more social character, usually in a religious context, as seen in traditional African medicine, Wicca, you name it. Fortune-telling, on the other hand, is a more everyday practice for personal purposes. Particular divination methods vary by culture and religion. Now, the English and French word turret derives from the Italian tarocchi, which has no known original or etymology. One theory relates the name turret to Taro River in northern Italy near Parma. The game seems to have originated in northern Italy, in Milan or Bologna. Other writers believe it comes from the Arabic word turuq, which means ways. Alternatively, it may be from the Arabic taraka, which means to leave, abandon, omit, or leave behind. According to a French etymology, the Italian tarocco derived from Arabic tarh, which means rejection, subtraction, deduction, or discount. Now, there is also the question of whether the word turret is related to Harut and Marut, who are mentioned in a short account in the Quran. According to this account, a group of Israelites learned magic for demonstration and to test them from two angels called Harut and Marut. What can be taken into account here is the phonetic resemblance of turret to Harut and Marut. They sound the same. Now, each card of the turret possesses a pictogram entitled that represents a specific concept. The belief of divinity associated with turret focuses on the prospect that whatever cards are dealt to the participant will be revelatory of his or her current psychological dilemma. Now, divination using playing cards is in evidence as early as 1540 in a book entitled The Oracles of Francesco Marcolini da Forlì, which allows a simple method of divination, though the cards are used only to select a random oracle and have no meaning in themselves. But manuscripts from 1735 and 1750 document rudimentary divinatory meanings for the cards of the tarot as well as a system for laying out the cards. You'll be interested to know that Giacomo Casanova wrote in his diary that in 1765 his Russian mistress frequently used a deck of playing cards for divination. Now, when it comes to using the tarot for divinatory purposes, we tend to refer to them as the major arcana and the minor arcana. Now, major arcana means greater secrets, and it consists of 22 cards without suits, starting or ending with the Fool, since that is the number 0. And then there's also cards like the Magician, the High Priestess, the Empress, the Emperor, the Hierophant, the Lovers, the Chariot, Strength, the Hermit, and so on and so forth. Now the minor arcana, which means lesser secrets, consists of 56 cards divided into 4 suits of 14 cards each, 10 numbered cards and 4 court cards. Now the court cards are the King, Queen, Knight and Page or Jack, and they are found in each of the 4 tarot suits. Now depending on the tarot deck you have, they might be named slightly differently. The traditional Italian tarot suits are swords, batons or wands, coins and cups. But in modern tarot decks, the baton suit is often called wands, rods or staves, while the coin suit is often called pentacles or discs. The terms major arcana and minor arcana were first used by Jean-Baptiste Pitois, also known as Paul Christian, for whatever reason, and are never used in relation to tarot card games. Now keep in mind one important thing: whatever the cards tell you is not a guarantee that it will happen, no matter what. Recently there was a Mama Q posted which asked, what do you do when you get a reading and you want to change what it says? Now the truth is that to change what a reading says, you need to change the way you're doing things in everyday life. A reading tells to show the probable outcome should you continue doing things in the same way that you're currently doing them. I'll give you a practical example. The first reading I ever did for myself was to know whether I would pass my exams or not. The card simply said, if you study you'll pass. My reaction to that was, yeah well, thanks a lot, Captain Obvious. Get used to the cards stating the obvious. They have an irritating habit of telling you what you already know. However, as irritating as it may be, sometimes you need a visual aid to understand the obvious. It's pretty much like when you're rambling on and on to a friend of yours about a problem and you don't really strike up a conversation, it's more of a monologue. However, by the end of it, you realize that you already know the answer to your dilemma. So that's pretty much what the tarot cards do. Anyway, that's enough historical facts. If you want to get into more detail about them, refer to Wikipedia, which is where I got most of my information from. And that's it from my end for today. Until next time, blessed be.